This is Attorney Mike Revel coming to you from Chicago, as usual. And today we're going to start a whole new series. It's a little something I'm going to call Pro Se Court Fail. Let's do it. Okay, this is going to be fun. We get to visit our good friend Judge Middleton once again. And today we've got a guy who decided to go pro se in his courtroom. And it just creates some interesting situations that we'll discuss as we go through.
This is file 21297SM. The defendant was charged with stalking and malicious destruction of turf. He pled guilty on May 5th to the MDOP of trees, shrubs, or grass, and the stalking case was dismissed.
Okay, so this is interesting. This is the defendant right here in the middle, Gabriel H. And he'd already pled guilty on this. And you'll see that he, for whatever reason, is not happy with his attorney.
I did get the police report, and the matter was set for sentencing this morning. In the meantime, I received a motion from Attorney Yancey to withdraw as counsel. There has been a breakdown in the attorney-client.
So here's the defense attorney, and she's filed a motion to withdraw as counsel. And we'll see. Basically, he was being nasty to her and sending her emails. She keeps it pretty mellow, but you can read between the lines. That's what's going on.
Relationship due to the defendant's belief the attorney is not working in his best interest. So before we can get to the matter of sentence, we have to deal with the matter of counsel. Ms. Yancey, is there anything else you wish to add to that motion?
Your Honor, following the pretrial on May 6th, where a plea was entered by Mr. Hess, I did receive multiple emails the rest of that day from Mr. Hess expressing displeasure with the service I provided for him during that hearing. At that time, I felt it was appropriate if I step back. I'm not sure what Mr. Hess intends to do. His emails may have suggested he did not agree with the offer that we had worked out. I did not feel it was in either party's best interest for me to continue, as he needed to feel comfortable with his representation. And based on the content and the nature of the emails I received, I did not feel he wished me to continue to represent him. Matter.
Okay, she's cleaning that up quite a bit, I'm guessing. So at a previous appearance, she worked out a deal with the prosecutor and he pled guilty to it. So the case is basically done except for sentencing. And but afterwards, he has some remorse and is telling her he didn't like it, he didn't like the deal, he doesn't like her, and all that kind of stuff. So she says, "Fine, I want to withdraw on the case," and that's where we are right now.
All right, Mr. Hess,
yes, Your Honor.
You did enter a plea. The stalking charge, the one-year misdemeanor, was dismissed for a plea to this turfing with some restitution. Do you wish to continue that plea to the other charge?
I'm accepting the plea down to the malicious destruction of property of trees and shrubs.
All right, so you want to continue with the plea?
Yes, and the stalking.
Okay, so he's complained about everything, but he wants to keep the deal that he got that day.
It would be dropped, is what I understood between when I had talked to before the pretrial, when I talked to Mr. Marvin's understudy, or I forgot his name.
Assistant.
Yep.
All right, we've done that. So you want to continue your plea to MDOP, dismiss stalking.
Yep, and
You
I
got
never.
that part of it right.
Sorry. Yes.
Now, your lawyer says you sent her email saying you were dissatisfied with her. Apparently, you're not dissatisfied with the plea. You wish to continue the plea, but what about your attorney?
Well, we won't get into a total bunch of that, but I just feel like she misrepresented me. She took my case. I understand it wasn't a real high-profile case or anything. Just the lack of contact, for one. I just feel like she was not in my best interest. She forced the plea on me the day of. I didn't hear much from her at all.
That's just good on so many levels. First of all, the judge asked him, what do you think about her motion to withdraw? And he says, well, we're not going to get too into that. That's what the judge just asked you. It's on point. It's exactly the conversation we're having right now. Whatever. But then he proceeds to do it. Then he says she forced the plea on him on the date to plea. Well, yeah, that's when you do it. The case is up. You're either setting it for trial or you're coming to a deal. Yeah, and then setting it for sentencing, which is a lot less work because you don't have to prep for trial. So, the time for plea deals is usually when it's up in court. You can do it outside of that, but that's usually what it is. And then the other thing is, I'm assuming this is a public defender. He's saying that he didn't have too much client contact. Well, I'll tell you what, that's pretty normal. We've got a charge that was pled down to turf destruction. That's pretty minor. It started at stalking. That was probably the intent to begin with, is to just get a charge on him. I'm assuming they're not out to get him if he doesn't have a lot of priors. I'm assuming that because Deborah Davis would be all on top of that, and she isn't, and she would be pressing this if this guy had 5 prior stalking charges or some such thing. So it's not something that you would sit around and talk about for hours on end. I mean, you went over, your girlfriend was 2-time, and you went over there and threw a hissy fit, apparently damaged some turf, and we've got it reduced to that.
I don't know. I guess that depends on which side of the coin you're on, whether you contacted her or she contacted you. But so you wish to continue the plea.
That's fine.
Do you want me to appoint a different attorney for you?
Pardon?
Or do you want me to appoint a different attorney for you?
I'm ready to get this behind me so I can move on with my life. Today's a sentence. I think that we're at.
So you'll just proceed without counsel?
Am I getting sentenced today, Your Honor?
Well, it depends. Are you willing?
This is actually intelligent. I will give him credit. Gabriel, who's the defendant here, he just threw his appointed attorney under the bus for no good reason. But he's smart in continuing with this plea. It's not going to get better than that, number one. Number two, he just asked an intelligent question. I will give him that. For a guy who's not represented, he's saying, the judge asked him, do you want another attorney? He's like, hey, can we just tie this thing up today? That is a rational and reasonable question, and Judge Middleton handles it.
To proceed without Ms. Yancey here to represent you?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so you'll agree to proceed without counsel.
I think it would have been nice for her to let me know that she was going to back off so I could have been a little more prepared, but hopefully this is the last thing we have to deal with this case here, so.
Your Honor,
Your mic, all right, you don't want your lawyer. I thought she worked out a pretty good plea agreement on your behalf.
We had it worked out.
Yeah, that's the other thing that's funny. I wish you would have known. He was the one that was attacking her via email. I'm sure of it, number one. Number two, this happens all the time in court. It's kind of funny. If she's a public defender, she's in front of Middleton all the time. He already has an opinion of her. He thinks that I can tell by the way this is proceeding that she is a rational, reasonable attorney. So when you go and say these things to a judge who knows that attorney, they're looking at it in the context of their prior dealings with this person. And they think, this woman's been in front of me many times and she isn't a kook. So it's a hard sell to that judge.
Before she even got appointed to me.
Well, I don't know about that, but let's start with you, Deborah. What's your position here?
Well, Your Honor, there is a restitution request that had been filed. I know that there was some question about the amount of the restitution that was being requested. However, I looked at some of the case law on the matter, and basically restitution can be granted for anything that results from that conduct of the defendant. And in this case, there was stalking, malicious destruction of property. Now, the stalking was dismissed, but his conduct with the malicious destruction of property, the victims felt compelled to get security cameras for their home. There was a lot of issues going on there, kind of a long, convoluted story, it sounds like. But that being said, they did provide with the restitution request that they were requesting the amount of, let me slide up, $9,000 $974.69, which includes damage to the yard, security cameras, and lost wages.
All right, can you break that down? How much is yard?
Sure. $200 for the damage to the yard, $534.21 for the security cameras, and 12 hours of lost wages at $20.04 per hour, for a total of $240.48.
Mr. Hess, what would you like me to know?
Well, since I'm representing myself, my client, I can understand the actual charge of $200 for the destruction of property. I think
Right there when he started, he said, "So I'm representing myself," and then he says, "My client," like he's a separate person. Now, technically, that does make sense, but it's just silly. You sound dopey, and he continues to refer to himself as his client or Mr. Hess. As we go here, he actually doesn't do a horrible job under the circumstance, but that part just makes you look goofy.
he was willing to pay maybe half of the wages. I think the whole trauma on Mr. Tice's behalf was kind of convoluted also. I talked to somebody, magistrate before, and said, yes, I would agree to half the hours of 6 hours. Now, the security systems, I could understand if Mr. Hess was going out there consistently and harassing them nonstop.
Again, if Mr. Hess, he's talking about himself.
And it had been proof that he had been doing that, which is not the case. It was a one-time thing. He had went out there after he had been harassed himself and kind of lured in out there. And it was a one-time thing, and I just know he wasn't behind him. So I don't know.
This happened in January. Have there been any other issues since that time, Ms. Brown?
No, Your Honor, there have not. My client has PPOs against him. And
My client has PPLs. That's for personal protection orders, and his client is him. Again, it just sounds so bad. It does show you just right here, and like I said, he's doing okay under the circumstance. The deal's already cut. He's saying, look, it hasn't recurred. That's big to the court. That's on point, and he's saying that is a good thing to say. Deborah Davis isn't jumping in with a pile of priors. And if she had them, she would. So that's pretty good. But look how silly you look advocating for yourself. This would just be so much smoother and better with his attorney handling it and saying my client doesn't have has had no subsequent arrests and doesn't have any priors. And this isn't going to happen again, and that kind of thing. It just goes down a lot smoother. He's actually tripped upon basically the right arguments. I'll give him that, but it just sounds so silly.
has stayed on track with those and has not contacted Mrs. Brown or Mr. Tice. So I think we can move forward. I think the exact number I wasn't sure was around $400 and some, whatever the 200 is plus half of the wages. I think he'll agree on paying for the restitution.
Okay, so there's $900 and some requested in restitution under the circumstances. He's saying basically they're overblowing it, but I'd be willing to pay half that because I've done some damage. Not a bad argument. Seems reasonable. Some of the stuff he's doing okay.
How long were you in jail before you bonded out?
I was in there a day.
Arrested on 2/22, bonded. Yeah, all right, I'm going to order 1 day jail credit, 1 day. I'm going to order a $100 fine, $75 crime victims' rights fee, $50 state minimum fee, $200 for the turf, and $120, which is half of the lost wages, which is $320 restitution. I guess the restitution is to
Derek Tice.
Derek Tice. Part of this comes from having two boyfriends at the same time, but this is, you're out of the picture. She's not continuing this relationship, and you need to move on, and it sounds like you're working at that. 420 plus 125, 545. I give you till the end of the summer. That's due by August. 31, 21.
August 31, 21. Got you. Thank you, Your Honor.
$545, $320 restitution at $225 in fines and costs. I do think Miss Yancey did a fine job for you getting this plea agreement, but I'm going to waive the attorney fee since you ended up representing yourself. All right, continue to comply with your PPOs and you'll be all right. Do you have any questions? Are you on the St. Joe County or Cass County side of the line?
On the Cass County by like a mile.
All right, don't get in any trouble over there either. All right, this matter's completed. You owe $545 by August 31st. You're good to go.
Thank you.
Jordan, does that complete your obligations?
Okay, well, there you have it. It was just funny having him refer to his client and Mr. Hess. I couldn't take it. I think we achieved the right result here, and as a pro se, I think he did better than average. I've seen a lot of pro ses handling it. What he was doing was sort of funky, but he was hitting the right points. The essence of what you wanted to say to the judge is this isn't happening anymore. And if that is the case, everyone's happy. We get a minor conviction, so we sort of have a record of it. If this stuff crops up again, they'll be tougher about it. But you get a minor conviction, and he has to pay some restitution. He spent a day in jail. If he's not continuing with his behavior, and it appears he's not, that seems a very appropriate result to me. And as usual, Middleton is a good combination of stern and kind with the defendant, and I think really trying to help the situation.
Here at Law Talk, we answer all your legal questions and give detailed analysis of current events. Who am I kidding? We just mostly laugh at horrible court appearances. And occasionally you might learn something, but I promise I'll try to keep that to a minimum. Thanks for watching.